The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. Reaper Apparel offers a casual line of superb fit, finish, and comfort. We design for those who refuse to die slowly and choose to live untamed. For those who aren't afraid to face the dark, for the ones that thrive in it, and for those who can appreciate life through a grim lens. That's Reaper Apparel Company. Go to the link in the description of this episode, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my own personal merch store, the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. I have hats, I have t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, water bottles, notebooks, you name it, I've got it. The description and the link for that will be in the description of this episode. Also, right now, if you use the promo code WELCOME, I will give you 5% off of your first purchase. That's the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Tactical Brotherhood, all American-made apparel, which helps support the Second Amendment. You can also find all this in the description of this episode with the link, Tactical Brotherhood. Part of every proceed does go to helping veterans, as it is a very good cause. All American-made products made right here in Minnesota. Go and check them out. Use the promo code PATRIOT15 to get 15% off your purchase. Now, let's start the show.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. This is your special guest host, Fitty, and today we have another great episode for you with another great guest who is actually coming on for the first time, but was a part of the Mathews football preview earlier this summer with former guest of the show and roundtable contributor Drew McLaughlin. Before we get started with Jordan and who he is and what he's all about, let's talk about the new sponsors that we have. But please check out all the sponsors in the pre-roll and the post-roll and make sure you support these small businesses. We have 3 new sponsors we're going to talk about very quickly. And the first one is Buddy's Beard Care. Buddy's Beard Care provides premium men's grooming products at an affordable price. Products are made in Ohio, and Buddy's Beard Care supports local. The majority of their supplies are from the Ohio-based companies, and you can find them on social media at Buddy's Beard Care or online at www.buddysbeardcare.com. The second one we want to talk about is former guest of the show's business, my former college teammate and Bethany graduate, Matt Lando Landowski, one of the toughest football players I ever played with. He owns Sweet Hand Sports. Elevate your game with Sweet Hand Sports. Our sports gloves are designed for champions, providing ultimate grip and durability. Achieve greatness with every match. Choose Sweet Hand Sports for the winning edge. Grip your victory at sweethandsports.com. You can also find Lando on social media at Matt Lando Landowski. He has batting gloves and he also has a golf glove that he just came out with. And finally, the last sponsor of the show, and one we definitely want to talk about here, is Deemed Fit. It is deemed fit. Make sure everybody emphasizes the it part, deemed fit. So it's for first responders and it's owned and operated by first responders. It's a company designed to help first responders and veterans with mental and physical health. You can use the promo code Mike Bono to get 20% off, deemed fit. Check out all these great sponsors. Their links are definitely in the information for the show. So with all that being said, we can finally get to Jordan. Our guest today is Jordan Hefner, and again, former guest of the roundtable that we had for the second annual Mathews football preview with former guest and roundtable contributor Drew McLaughlin. Jordan, welcome to the show, man.
What's happening, Fitty? How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm glad to be talking to you. How's everything your way?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. Can't complain.
Great. So, Jordan, I know we talked a little bit about your coaching background on the Mathews football roundtable, but let's kind of tell everybody, where are you from originally, and where did you go to high school at?
I'm from Kinsman, Ohio. Up until 7th grade, I went to Badger. They didn't have a football program. I was actually on the very first Pee Wee program they ever had. And then after 7th grade, when you couldn't play anymore, obviously, I transferred and I went to Mathews. Graduated from Mathews too. So, yeah.
Okay. So what was it like growing up at a place, in Kinsman and going to Badger that didn't have a football team for the high school? Is that a little bit different as a school and a culture not having football?
Yeah, it's really weird. So you would think like I've had all these friends that I grew up with from, you know, preschool, kindergarten, all the way up until seventh grade. But I really didn't have that. I really had to make new friends when I left and went to Mathews. Um, but another thing too, like with friends, so a lot of my friends that I had, they all played football. So they all went to different schools. Whether it was, I had two of my friends went to Kennedy. One of my friends went to Garfield. A bunch of them went to Brookfield. One went to PV. Like everybody just scattered. It was a little weird. You definitely see a difference in the community, like in Vienna. You can definitely tell it's Friday night during football season in Vienna. And, Kinsman, it's kind of just another day.
Sure. I always wonder that too, being so close to Kinsman growing up across the border in PA. Do you know why they never had football? Was it just because the lack of the size of the school, or was there a reason behind it? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea. I know they made a very, very, very big push. The guys that started the Pee Wee program, who all have football backgrounds, um, they made a really big push. Like they were calling special board meetings for it, and it just never came together. I don't. They just don't want it. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, I know there's a lot of schools on that border of Ohio with Pennsylvania that don't have football, and you kind of wonder, what is the school atmosphere like because you don't have, Friday nights. There's not the marching band opportunities in that sense, or
Right.
cheerleading for football games. I think it's definitely different, but I guess if you grow up not having it, you don't know any different
Yeah. True.
either. And I think as we go forward here into 2024, 2025, as we see small districts shrinking and potentially combining, maybe we'll see some of these potential mergers with these schools, and then maybe adding football to add to the dynamic of the high school. So time will tell on that. So you go to Mathews and you are
Hmm.
now a student there. Can you
Yep.
kind of talk about what it was like being at such a small school though that had football, and what were you involved in with sports or extracurriculars, and just kind of your time at Mathews?
So for it being a small school, I really didn't know the difference. I honestly thought, I was going to Matthews, they had football, so it was a bigger school because Badger obviously didn't have it. I came in the summer, going into my eighth grade year, and with all the middle school guys playing football, I had Coach Maisie and Coach File were my coaches. Coach Maisie's still around. We actually had a 40-minute phone conversation yesterday. But Coach File, he passed about 2 years ago. Great guy, great guy. He's one of those guys that he always kept you locked in. Um, Middle school, I didn't play basketball in middle school. No, I wasn't able to. And then all I did when I was in eighth grade, I just played football, waited, lifted my butt off for my freshman year.
Okay, so then you get to high school, and then you're part of the high school team, and some of our former guests are well connected with Matthews, whether that's Drew McLaughlin or Coach Matt Polta, Mike Palumbo. They're all people that have worked previously and work at Matthews now. Can you kind of talk about your relationship with those people and what that was like as a student to now being an adult and being back at Matthews as a football coach?
Yeah, I think Palumbo was really, really good coach. It was actually kind of a heartbreaker for me after my junior year when he left. But I understand he had kids, he was building a family, all that. And Coach Polta, I've been around Coach Polta since my freshman year, with a little bit of break after I graduated. But that guy teaches me new things every day. Um, Drew was there my freshman year too. I think that was his second year coaching ever, and he was actually one of my linebacker coaches. So it's really cool now that I'm on a staff with Coach Polta and Drew, and Coach Maisie too. Like I talked about before, he's there on and off, but right now he's really focused on being a parent. His son Zach, who was a tailback and outside linebacker for us last year, he's playing at Teal College now. So he's really having a good time watching this kid finally play as a parent other than as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a different dynamic when you're a dad,
Right.
helping coach versus a dad being a fan, and especially when you can be a proud dad watching your child, play any type of college sports, because there's very few people that go on to the D3, D2, D1, 1AA, JUCO, NAIA levels and play. Can you kind of talk about too your time at Mathews under Coach Palumbo? The success that you guys had, and I believe Coach Protopapa would have been there your senior year. I know, when I was coaching, whether it was in Pennsylvania or Ohio, we were always intermixed with Mathews. We had some great relationships with them, whether it was passing scrimmages or the preseason scrimmages, junior high games, things like that. Can you kind of talk about your 4 years there in a nutshell and what your guys were able to accomplish?
Yeah, I remember when you were at Lakeview your first year. That was my senior year. We came there for a 7-on-7. It was us, Lakeview, Campbell, and Farrell was there.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, because I thought we were so good because we scored on Farrell like 3 times, and then I don't know what happened. I think they ended up winning. I think they were runner up in the state championship game that year. They were pretty good.
Yeah, they were really good. And that was a great passing scrimmage. The 2 years that I was there, we did 4 of them at home, but that first year we were kind of pressed on time. But I really enjoyed that passing scrimmage. I thought that was some great competition between the 4 of us. And I know that was something Coach Protopapa really enjoyed, the relationship that we had at Lakeview, PA, with Mathews being so close. But he kind of go ahead.
That's weird because he's not a passing guy at all. He
right.
Can throw the ball. I remember he used to say 3 ththings can happen when you can throw the ball, and 2 of them are bad. Why would you do it?
Yeah, no, for sure. But I always enjoyed Coach Protopapa and Coach Palumbo and, coaching against Drew and Coach Mastella, as well. Coach Polta always had a good relationship coaching against those guys for, 10 years plus off and on. But, you guys had some success there with Coach Palumbo and Coach Protopapa. Can you kind of talk about some of the maybe major wins that you remember and, what it was like? I believe you went to the playoffs a couple of times too. Can you kind of talk about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my sophomore year, we made it to the playoffs. First time in like 10 years, I think. We went up to Norwalk St. Paul. That was a rough night. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really remember too much about that game. I took a lot of hits on that, and at that time, so actually my sophomore year, I was ineligible for the regular season. There was kind of a mix up with a class schedule that we had. So at the end of the year, I only had 4.5 credits because I only had like 5 classes at the end of the year, and one of them was only a half credit. So I got to play in the playoff game, which was awesome. And I was on like every special teams, played a little bit of receiver. But I was on kickoff so much, and I got hit every time. And it was like, ugh. I was like, man, I waited all year for this. And then we actually won the league that year. We did win the league that year. My junior year, I believe we went 8-2. Go down to Toronto first week of the playoffs. I believe at halftime it was still a really tight game. I think it was like 14-8. We were down 14-8, and then it just kind of, it just took off from there. It was kind of a track meet for Toronto from there. They just kind of went with it. My senior year with Coach Protopapa, we went, I think we either went 6-4 or 5-5. I can't remember, but we had to beat Newberry week 10 to make the playoffs. And it was, you think of Newberry, it doesn't matter pretty much who you are. That's a lock. Like, you're winning that game. They're notorious for being horrible. We go in, and I think 6 of our starters got ejected. Just a bunch of head cases we had. And we lost. I think we lost by 3. Yeah, I think they beat us by 3. So didn't make the playoffs my senior year.
But you know what? You got to experience it twice, and back then it was the 8-team playoff, not the 16-team playoff.
I hate what it is now. It's so dumb. I hate it.
Right, it's a sense of pride when you could make it into the
make it 10 teams. 10 teams make it. Top 2 seeds get a bye.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. So you finish up your high school career and then you go to the military. Can you kind of talk about when you were finishing up your senior year, ultimately what were you wanting to do, why you chose the military, and kind of your time in the military?
So through my senior year, we had a guy that coached at Mathews. He coached basketball, he coached track. He was a Pennsylvania Army National Guard recruiter, and me and him were really close. And he asked me one time, he's like, "Hey, you ever thought about the Guard?" I said, "Nah, I don't want to do nothing like that." He's like, "Oh, okay." Left me alone. Great dude. And then one day, this Navy recruiter came into the school, and he was talking, wouldn't leave me alone. And he was like, "Oh, I'll fill out this form, that says, I talked to you, so it looks good. I can give it to my bosses, whatever." So I fill it out, put my phone number on there. I'm stupid. Now I know. So that guy called me and texted me like 3 times a day. "Hey, man, join the Navy. Hey, join the Navy." I don't want to do that. So finally, I got a hold of this guy from the Army National Guard that I knew. I said, "Hey, how do I get this guy to leave me alone?" And he's like, "Well, I'll get a hold of him, tell him to leave you alone. I'll tell him you're working with me." And then it was actually a couple of days after that, I was like, "Hey, what's the National Guard like?" And then it just went from there.
Very interesting. So, how long were you in the National Guard? Are you still in the National Guard? Kind of what was your specialty going into that? We've had a lot of people who have served on here. Mike and I are proud to support our military. I had had 4 veterans in my family. 3 served in global conflicts. So always support our troops. So can you kind of talk about, what exactly you did with your specialty inside the National Guard?
Yeah. So I'm actually still in. I'm on year 7. So I got 4 years left. And then after these 4 years, I'm done. It's kind of to the point where, I'm sure you get coaches on here and they talk about it too, where there's nothing left to do. Mm-hmm. So, and there's nowhere you can't climb the ladder anymore. So it's just time to go. So in the next 4 years, that'll be it for me. There's really not going to be anywhere else for me to go up. So it's time to go. I got in 2017. Went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for basic training in AIT. And those of you that don't know, Fort Sill is the home of the field artillery. So I am still field artillery right now. My job is I am a section chief. So I have my own gun and I pretty much supervise my guys during fire missions. I like it a lot. It's definitely a break from regular life. And also too, I don't think I'd like it a lot if I did it full time. It'd just be a drag, I feel like. So that's why I stayed in. I was actually going to get out after my first contract, after my first 6 years, because I was kind of a go-getter when I was younger. When I first got in, I was like, all right, I need to go to all these schools, get promoted, get sergeant, and then, we'll go from there. Well, I got sergeant within my first 2 years, or 2.5 years. And I told myself, I'm like, okay, if I don't have E6 by the time I hit my 6 years, I'm done. Well, like 2 months before it was ready for me to either get out or re-enlist, I see my name on the promotion list for E6. And I'm like, I should probably stay. So I stayed.
Gotcha. Yeah, we've had on some guests who have been former Navy personnel and Air Force as well. One graduated from the Naval Academy and got into coaching. Another one was in the Navy, and then he was cross-trained with the Army and became a sniper. He actually lives out of the country now. Another one was in the Air Force, and then he has since retired medically, and then he is a full-time coach. And then with my family, they served proudly in Vietnam and World War II in Korea, across the Army and the Air Force, and the Navy. So, definitely have had a lot of connections with the military there. I know it sometimes can be a hard road to go down for people, but
Right.
I know there's a lot of great rewards there. It's a great way to see the country, see the world, get your education paid for. Have opportunities to learn a trade, or some type of different, get some different certifications and go out into the world after that. So, Jordan, on behalf of everybody at Ride Home Rants, thank you for your service to our country and keeping us safe.
I appreciate it. You say you could go in and learn a trade, and I tell people that all the time, and like I kind of kick myself in the butt. I'm like, man, I wish I would have did that. I'm just a big dumb guy that likes to blow shit up. That's basically what my job is.
When I was coaching, one guy that worked for Rydell, who would come collect the equipment at the end of the season, we were chatting one time, and he actually went to the Army, and he was learned how to become a chef. He became a chef in there. He earned his culinary degree, if you want to say. He did that for 25 years and then retired and then moved on into Rydell. But I know there's a lot of different things you can learn in there. I always tell people too, when they're looking at potentially the military, and I'm like, you know what, you can go in there and have a great career, because on every military base or every unit or whatever, they still need everyday people. They still need carpenters. They still need plumbers. They still need mechanics. They still need welders. They need garbage men. They need cooks. You don't have to go in there and become a Navy SEAL or a Ranger or whatever it may be. You can go in there and actually have a really great life, being in the medical field, whatever, it may be. So, Jordan, then, you do this National Guard thing. You're still in it for a few more years, but you still need a full-time job. So what are you doing now? And what have you done since graduation?
Oh, I'll start from after I came home from basic training in IIT. So I started working at Superior Beverage. It was I don't know if you're familiar with them. It's a beer distributing company.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, so I was driving from Kinsman to Columbiana every day at like 4:00 in the morning, and running a route with somebody, getting done, and then going home. After that, I got sick of the drive. So my brother, he was actually working at the gas company in town. He was like, "Hey, come out, I'll get you decent money to work here." Okay, cool. So started working there. And then from previous football injury, I had a shoulder surgery that set me off work for a while. And then he ended up leaving that company after like 10 years and going to another gas company. So I was like, I don't like this stuff anyways. I'm out of here. From there, I worked at TCI in Leavittsburg, the state prison. I worked there for a while. And then I asked management there, I said, "Hey, I'd like to go to the police academy. Could I get switched to midnight shifts?" And they said no. So I walked into the sheriff's office and talked to the major of the jail, and he basically hired me on the spot. I told him my plan. I said, "I want to go to the police academy. Will you guys let me work here and do that at the same time?" He said, "Absolutely." So that's what I did. I worked at the jail while going through the police academy. Got out of the police academy. I worked at Goshen Township in Mahoning County. That's another, it was a quick find for me after, because, you don't want to sit around after you get a certification and not use it. So I hurried up, got a job there. That was another about an hour drive from my house to work every day. So I kind of wasn't really making any money because of the drive, and the pay there was not great. Got into probation for a little bit. While I was working in probation, I started working part-time in Kinsman, and new chief took over, Chief Thad Stevenson, great guy. And then at one point he said, "Hey, I'm looking for a full-time guy." And I said, "Well, I'm interested if you want." I said, "I don't need the health benefits. I'll do it. And he hired me full time, and now I'm there. I've been there since March, full time.
We'll be back after a quick break.
If you want the most hilarious stories from military service, we're talking about shenanigans, pranks, mistakes that are funny. Check out the Camo Comedy Show podcast, available now on all podcasting platforms. And that's 2 M's in Camo, CAMMO. Check us out now.
That's awesome. That is definitely awesome. We always like to say everybody has a unique story to tell, and everybody has this unique background, right? Of like, who are you before and what were you then, and now who are you now? So, that's definitely awesome. And I think, you have a very dynamic background, right? You're still serving in the National Guard. You're a police officer. You have experience in probation. You have experience as a corrections officer. I think something like that, definitely can make you a better officer, right? Because not only are you just looking from the police side, well, the correction side, what people sometimes get in for, the issues people go through in jail, whether it's mental health or substance abuse or whatever it may be. You've seen, what it can be when you're on probation. And I think, you've been in some very high level stress situations that I think becoming an officer, in my opinion, you're better equipped with to handle. Because you've seen the different realms. You just haven't seen law enforcement. You've seen military, you've seen probation, you've seen corrections. So, kudos to you for doing all that. And again, thank you for, keeping everyone safe. So I always like to say though, police officers always have a different type of job depending on where you're at. So like, Kinsman is a rural area. It's a small area, right? So it's not like you're in a big city. So I'm sure you've dealt with some country things that most city officers wouldn't deal with. So have you ever had to chase like a cow down or a wild horse or something that got out of their pens?
A horse. I used to have it like once a week. Same guy, his horse would get out, and that horse was like it was the part of town where there's a bunch of houses squished together, and this guy had a horse like on a leash in his backyard, and it kept getting off, and I had to chase it around, and oh God, I hated that. And now I told him, I said, hey, if you're, next time I have to come back here, I'm charging you for animals at large. He's like, oh, you can't do that. And yeah, you want to bet? Let's do it.
Right. I think, after 2-3 times, you're doing it to try to literally help someone out, to protect the citizens, protect the horse, protect everyone and serve the community. But eventually you kind of got to get the hint and know that
I did it like 7 times.
That's probably 6 times too many.
Yeah.
In that case. So I'd like to say, sometimes the country officers have very interesting stories because, you pretty much work alone. You're dealing with a lot of things in the country, whether it's fallen trees blocking a road, someone's power goes out, it's pitch black, you have to deal with chasing animals around and, things like that. So, people may be prowling on someone's farm and not knowing. So, I'm sure you have quite a few funny stories out there during your time.
Oh yeah. Everybody thinks it's just, a lot of times they think it's little old Kinsman, and, I'm actually in the process now, training a guy fresh out of the academy. He's going to work for us part-time. And he was like, this is the other day, he's only been with me for like 4 days. And he was like, oh my gosh, I didn't think there was this much to do out here. I'm like, yeah, there's stuff to find. There's stuff to do out here. But, it's kind of tough out there too, because it was just a part-time department for so long. And that community is so, everybody's together. It's a really tight community, that, it's like the wild, wild west out there. Something will happen and they're not calling the police. They're trying to handle it on their own until they can't, because they know, like, before we had anybody full time, they're going to call the sheriff's office. It's going to take 45 minutes for somebody to get there. So why even call?
Sure. No, and I know definitely there's always issues in every community, no matter if it's the best community in the world or the worst community in the world. Everyone has issues. And again, it's just depending on the area and the issues that you that you've dealt with. I know the other day we were traveling for work and we were in a very rural area, and we just came across a town we were cutting through, and the lights were out. And it looked like, their part-time officers were there directing people through the few traffic lights that they had, because the sheriffs probably weren't going to go do that. So they had to get the part-time officers to go direct traffic.
Yep.
Not that there was a lot of traffic, but you still got to have somebody present to direct traffic.
Yeah.
So you also, balance coaching. This is your third year with being a police officer and also the National Guard. So can you kind of talk about, and it's going to kind of hint back to the summer show, but just how you got into coaching, and then, besides being at Mathews, your first year at Kennedy, and getting to experience coaching there. So you kind of talk about how you got into coaching and then what that experience has been like.
So when I was working at the jail, I worked with a guy, his name's Mike Bassalon. He was taking over as the coach for the Little Mustangs, the Pee Wee program. And he asked me, he says, I can't find any guys to help me. I can't. And I said, well, Mike, I'll come help you. So I go there, start helping him in the summer. And, we start the first 2 games, we're not winning anything, but it is what it is. At that level, it's not about winning. It's about getting these kids better. Right. So I'm working in the jail, and then this new guy gets hired into the jail, and I become friends with him. The guy's name is Chuck Arn. And he's like, hey, man, I hear you coach football. I coach over at Kennedy Catholic. I'm the defensive coordinator. He says, we need another guy. He says, I need another, set of eyes. And I'm like, well, let me talk to Mike. I'll see what he thinks. And he said, dude, if you have that opportunity, he says, go do it. So I start coaching at Kennedy. It was rough. It was really rough. Like, I think the first game we had 12 guys total. Our punter was playing receiver, and he was not that guy. So I finished out the year there. And then I heard that Coach Bourne was leaving Mathews, and I instantly thought, I'm like, oh, I really hope Coach Bolt is going to put in for this job, because I feel like he's a shoe-in for it. He gets the job. He hires me on the staff. I volunteered last year. Last year, I helped Drew out with the offense a little bit, and then I helped Coach Marsco out with the defense. And now this year, I have a contract. I'm basically, I'm doing a little bit on the defensive side, but it basically, like, I'm Drew's eyes in the booth. Say, hey, we can run this. We can't run this.
Sure. So that's great, experience you're getting that, especially seeing it from the booth, because seeing it from the booth is a different type of vision of the game. But that's definitely awesome. So Jordan, I guess from here, you kind of talked about where you're going to go and retire per se with the National Guard here in a few years. But, where do you see your career going potentially with coaching, law enforcement, or just, future ambitions? Where do you see yourself, going down the road here?
Actually, I was told not to talk about it yet, but I actually did get offered a coaching job yesterday at the semi-pro level, which doesn't mean I'm getting away from high school football at all. I am going to take it. I can't reveal too much about it yet.
Sure, no problem.
I can tell you it is with the Mahoning Valley Federals. They are under a completely new staff, or they're going to be. New everything. Like, it's not going to be played in like downtown Youngstown anymore. Everything will be at Austintown Pitch. That's all I can say about that right now.
Okay. Well, no, that's definitely awesome. Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah, thanks.
And, you get a chance to go make a difference in some adults' lives too with coaching.
So actually, last spring, Chuck, my buddy Chuck Arn, he was a head coach of the WPA Wildcats. I don't know if you know a whole lot about semi-pro football, or if you ever heard of Wildcats. So, yep. Pretty big deal, ton of national championships. They closed shop in 2019, and then started the team back up last year. And he asked me, he says, hey, you want to come coach? I said, sure. So I started going, and, it's drive to Pittsburgh every Sunday. It's a rough drive. And then I started noticing less and less guys showing up, and the attitudes were really bad. And I was like, you know what? For a 2-hour drive, I'm not doing this, and it just wasn't worth it. So, he's actually going to be Chuck is actually going to be the GM, the new GM of the Mahoning Valley Federals. For high school side, I mean, I don't have any, reason to leave Mathews right now. I mean, I see what Coach Polta is building, and he's building something very special, and I really want to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And Coach Polta's a great guy, and he's just a better man and an inspirational leader. So, having the conversations that we've had on here and seeing him at practice and the times I've been around the program and stuff, he's just always a blast to talk to, and always very receptive from a coach's standpoint to take, maybe a couple ideas here and there from the retired coach that's given up. So, Jordan, before we let you go, though, we always do this interesting segment called the Fast 55 with our guests, where it's 5 random questions brought to you by myself in my mind that I come up with on the fly. And usually when Mike's doing the show, I send him the day of the show, and he usually laughs reading them to the guests. So if you're ready for your first Fast 55, we can get going.
I'm ready. I didn't get the Fast 55 last time.
Yeah, no, we don't really do them on the round tables too much.
Upset.
So, okay, question number 1. The best bubblegum flavor is?
Ooh, very easy. Watermelon strawberry. Shout out to Coach Maisie.
Okay.
Bubba, watermelon strawberry.
Okay, question number 2. If you had to pick the rest of your life to live in one of these 2 states, where are you picking? Alaska or New Mexico?
Alaska.
Okay. Yeah. Question number 3. If you could personally own one of the next 2 things I'm going to say to you, let me know which one you want to own. Would you rather own a full-grown elephant or 100 red pandas?
We'll go with an elephant. I could probably make money off that somehow.
You can ride around town on your elephant.
Yep.
But people do love red pandas. They're very cuddly looking.
Yeah.
So you might make some money off of them.
Where am I going to put them? I could probably squeeze an elephant up here in Ashtabula. I don't know where I'm going to put all those pandas.
All right. Number 4. What does your ideal hamburger have on it for toppings?
Pickles. Well, cheese first. Pickles, lettuce, onions, ketchup, and mayo.
Wow, you're really doing it up with like the supreme burger right there.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure you just named a Whopper from Burger King, but we'll say it's your creation on that one. Okay, question number 5. I think this is a hot topic. People I've always argued with on this. So we'll see what you think. Tom Hanks, the actor. Is he a top 10 actor of all time? And if so, where do you have him ranked in the all-time actors?
Yes.
Okay, so he is top 10. Where do you think he ranks in the top 10?
We'll go 4.
Okay, just out of curiosity, who would be in front of him, you think?
Oh, man. Will Ferrell's got to be in there.
Will Ferrell, interesting. Okay, Will Ferrell. Okay.
Him for one. I mean, you have to throw Dwayne Johnson in there now. I mean, he's in everything. So he kind of has to be in there.
Okay.
I'm going to go Leo for sure.
Okay, interesting.
And then Chris Farley. That's number 1.
Okay. I would say I think Tom Hanks is probably top 5 for sure. I would say, in my opinion, Al Pacino is in the top 3. Robert De Niro's in the top 3, and Marlon Brando. And then I think 4 and 5 are interchangeable with Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington.
It's all about taste.
Right. Yeah. And one thing I've said about Tom Hanks, probably more different than those 4 actors, is Tom Hanks has played such a plethora of roles, whether you're talking about Big or Forrest Gump, what was the other movie? Sleepless in Seattle, to Captain Phillips, to the Toy Story trilogy. Tom Hanks has truly transcended time and roles, and even his Road to Perdition movie. I think he's definitely very unique, that he can play the funny guy, the tough guy, the captain, the voice actor. So I'm always curious about what people think about Tom Hanks. But that is actually your Fast 55. So I think it was pretty interesting. We'll see if Mike thought it was if it was too easy for you or not. So Jordan,
that was a good one.
well, thanks. I appreciate that. Jordan, before we get going, we always give our guests about 1 minute or 30 seconds, whatever they prefer. If there's anything you want to promote or just send out a good message, we'll let you do that now. So the floor is yours.
No, I'm good, man. That was it. I think we covered pretty much everything we wanted to.
Okay. Well, definitely thank you for being on this week's episode of Ride Home Rants. And thank you again for your service as a corrections officer, probation officer in your past, your military, presently experience, and then being a police officer. So thank you for keeping us, safe across this great United States of ours.
No, I appreciate you.
You're very welcome. As always, if you enjoyed the show, be a friend and tell a friend. And if you didn't, tell them anyways. I bet they like it just because you didn't. This is Fitty, special guesting host for Mike Bono for this episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. Please check out all of our sponsors in the pre-roll and post-roll, and we will see you next week.
The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by W Energy. Energy drinks made for gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. For gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. Go to the link in the description where you can find the best energy drinks out there. Less caffeine than a cup of coffee. Also, no jitters and no crash afterwards. Use the promo code Mike Bono and get yourself 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my favorite sponsor of the show, and that is Shankit Golf. Golf apparel made for the everyday golfer. We might not go out and shoot a 6 under par. We're probably going to shoot a 6 over par, but this is going to give us the gear that's going to help us rock it on and off of the course. Go to the link in the bio, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get yourself 10% off there as well.